What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Couple Things
with Shawn and Andrew,
a podcast all about couples
and the things they go through.
Today we have our favorite, Jana and Mike.
Jana Kramer and Mike Caussin. This was an interesting episode, unique.
Yes.
One, because Jana and Mike just launched a book called The Good Fight, where they write about all of their experiences, all of their arguments, and it is the full spectrum of arguments.
It's everything. They talk so in depth about what it means to fight and to work through a relationship, which I think is a beautiful thing. It's also an interesting episode because us as couples and friends work through an argument and an issue that we've been needing to work through, and we do it live on the podcast for you.
Well, it's like a 5-day old issue.
It's something that we needed to air out, and what better place than to do it here live to show you guys what it truly means to fight for not just your spouse, but your friendships as well.
Yeah, it was interesting timing because this drama, I guess you could say, happened the day before their book release party at their house. And so when this all happened, I was literally looking at their book called The Good Fight right here. And I was thinking, all right, these are friends that we've had for years. We care about them. We're thankful for them. And they've been good friends. So what can we do to fight for this?
And it's worth doing exactly what they claim in the book, which is claiming your baggage, just fessing up to your mistakes, and fighting for your friendship.
So if you don't know about Jana and Mike, Jana is a country music artist. She's an actress, and she does wonderful work. I love her music.
Mike, yes.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Mike is an NFL player, ex-NFL player, and we kind of talk about our similar roles in supporting our wives and them being in the limelight and the challenges that come with that, the good things that come with that. So I really enjoyed this conversation.
So did I.
And you can find more about Jana and Mike in the show notes down below. We'll also link their book called The Good Fight. It's worth reading. It's 200 pages. You'll get through it pretty quickly because it's really well written. So
yes.
Before we begin this conversation, please, if you haven't, let us know what you think of the show by rating it, whether you're listening on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and also subscribing to it if you want to hear more. We come out with weekly episodes, and we hope you enjoy them enough to do that. So it helps us out, and we're thankful for that. Anyway, without further ado, let's jump into it with Jana and Mike. Jana and Mike, welcome to the show. Congrats on the huge day. This is the release day for your new book called The Good Fight. Congratulations.
Thank you guys. And thank you guys so much for, you guys have an amazing quote that you guys put on the back of our book. So thank you for that too.
I was just about to say the worst words written on this book are on the back cover with our names.
The one with Shawn Johnson injuries. Yeah.
No.
Yes.
No.
That's hilarious.
No, seriously though, we really appreciate it.
Yeah, it meant a lot.
First question I'm really curious about. Your whole entire relationship is in this book. I feel like you guys have put a lot of your life out there for the world to see and hear and judge and give feedback and love it or hate it. Now you put even more out there. What's the initial feedback been like? Have you been nervous for today? Has it been good?
I mean, so far, just the feedback we've gotten from people that have gotten it, has been amazing. Even someone DM'd Jana saying, I'm already crying and I'm only at the dedications. And so we're like, it's just little things like that, because that's what this whole book is about, is relating to people, is allowing our audience and our readers not to feel alone in what they're doing.
Yeah, and I think for us too, it's like it's definitely hard to read comments and people say like, oh, our marriage is a disaster or it's a mess, but at the same time I'm almost like, now that this book is out, I'm like, you can think whatever you want. We put our heart and soul in this book, so if you can't see the heart that we do have, then I have nothing else to say. I have nothing else to defend. Like, I know we're not perfect. I know we have our issues, but there's nothing that that I don't feel like I have to defend anymore or be like, no, get to know me. Cause I'm like, if you still don't like me from like the heart that I poured out and with my childhood and everything else that I put in the book, like I'm almost like, then fine. Then you don't like me and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. If someone doesn't like somebody for being open and vulnerable, then that's on them. You know what I mean? Like, that's a personal problem.
So I've been crushing through it on Audible. I've had your voices in my head the whole morning. It's so great.
Good.
So this
Poor
is weird.
thing.
It's also weird though, because we're pretty close friends, and for us to be sitting here having like a quasi formal conversation, and then listen to you guys. But it's cool because as friends, you're in the moment with who you're with. So when we're with you guys, it's like we're experiencing things with you, but it's so cool to hear how you guys have taken so much time. I think, what, a year and a half to write this book, to step back and think about how you've gotten to where you are. Has been amazingly powerful. So let me just jump to this paragraph.
Oh boy.
Oh no. Oh, I'm
Because
scared.
I actually did not know this about you guys, but this is in the introduction. Mike says, Jana and I said, I love you after 10 days of knowing each other. We moved in after 3 months, bought a house after 4 months, engaged after 6, and married at 11. Oh yeah. And expecting our first kid at the 1 year mark. So I did not know that you guys moved that quickly, but it does sound like a fairy tale.
Right?
Yeah. It started off that way. Definitely seemed like it.
I mean, we had a little bumps in the very beginning, but from that bump on, it was like, it was like, okay, I'll steam ahead. Like, let's go. And, where some of our conflict early on came with me being like, okay, like I don't want to play house. Like, I'm 30 years old. I want to get married. I want to have kids. And like, you're either on the ship or you're not. And like,
and I was 27. And when I moved down here and, we bought this house together, I owned a house already in Baltimore. So when we go 50-50 on the house that we bought here in Tennessee, and I'm thinking, I just moved my entire life to a different state. Like, this is the first time I'm even living with another female, let alone purchasing a house with somebody. And so in my mind, I'm like, that's clearly enough to show you that I'm serious. And then she's like, are we going to play house or are we going to get married? I was like, whoa. And I even told her, I was like, I could wait. She's like, well, when do you want to wait? I was like, I can wait 5 years. And she's like, 5 years? And she was 30 at the time. So
I'm like, not happening. Like, that's fine. Like, but this is just not right for me then. Like, I love you, but no.
Wow.
She's like, put a ring on it. If you like it, put a ring on it.
I'm really curious. The whole concept of fairy tale. The whole concept of the podcast, whenever we interview people, you guys know this from the first time that we talked on this podcast, is I feel like society puts unrealistic standards on relationships. They say if you don't do this and you don't do that, then it won't work. If you don't date this long, if you get engaged too early, if you get married at a young age or married at an older age, like, it just isn't going to work and you're going to end up separated, which I think is ridiculous, because I think every person in every relationship does everything differently and they can make it work. So I'm curious, this concept of fairy tale, couldn't you argue that you are living a fairy tale? Because people paint these pictures of fairy tales as they don't argue, everything's perfect, everything falls into place. But if someone truly seeks that, they're going to be miserable for the rest of their lives because it's not realistic. So I'm curious what you think like a true fairy tale is, if you believe in it. And then what would you teach Jace and Jolie, your babies, about relationships and finding their person? Because should they seek out the actual fairy tale,
For sure. I mean, what I kind of said in the book is that I feel like we're the modern fairy tale. So it's not perfect, but the modern fairy tale is you're going to have issues, you're going to have struggles, and it's okay. And you can get through it. And I think that's something that we're going to teach Jolie and Jace, just even how we parent and how we are in a relationship with them, because, we don't do it perfectly. And it's about going back to them and apologizing and saying, hey, we made a mistake and we shouldn't have yelled and we're really sorry. So I think it's just owning our own, how should I say, like owning the fact that we're not perfect and that we are human and have some humility in it, and just, say you're sorry. And I think that just shows them that that's healthy conflict resolution, as opposed to just hiding it and everything's perfect and people will never fight.
I think, Shawn, great question, by the way, because it's a different question that we've been asked, in a sense of like, yeah. So I know it's hard being in the middle of the day after we've done press stuff all day, but that's a really good one, because no one's really talked about the, how will we teach our kids around this stuff. And I like that idea, because it's going to be hard. To be completely honest, it's going to be hard when Jason Jolie deal with heartache or deal with someone that's maybe hurt them or harmed them in a relationship and they want to stay with them, right? Because from the outside looking in, until you're in that scenario yourself, everyone would say, oh, I'll leave if they did this. I'll leave if they did that. But then if you see your child going through something and seeing them hurt by somebody, it's going to be really interesting when that day comes, because it's inevitable, right, for our kids that they're going to get hurt at some point emotionally. It's going to be interesting to see how Jana and I handle it, because we've lived through what we've lived through. So obviously we're going to preach forgiveness. We're going to, but at the same time, we want our babies to be protected. So that's going to be, I've never thought about it, honestly. So appreciate you asking that question. What do you guys view as good about fighting? It's an oxymoron to some extent.
I think it's good because it's, we're fighting for each other. And I think, a lot of times in our relationship, we've been fighting against each other and we've made the other person be out to be the enemy. But now it's like, we're fighting for our relationship. We're fighting to change and grow. And, just like the other, few weeks ago, it's like, this isn't working for me. Like this, we have to figure out a different way to have conflict and do the work that we've preached in our book. And, these are some things that I feel as I'm growing, I need more of, and just fighting, to get to know each other again and to try to figure out how have our needs changed and what we need now as we're evolving and as we're growing and as we're learning new things about ourselves. So I think it's important to fight for each other and also, just to fight in general for this relationship.
In writing this book, everything you guys have talked about that has happened in your past, you're like, we've worked through it, we've forgiven it, we're moving on.
To an extent.
To an extent. How was writing a book for the past year and a half, opening up everything that you've gone through, reliving it, refeeling it, trying to figure out a way to share it? How did that affect your relationship?
That was a back and forth thing. That was tough because we had days where we were able to have some humor about it, where it's like, man, we were such idiots in that moment. We can't believe, we fought like that or that's how it went. But there were a lot of triggering moments. There were a lot of memories that were hurtful and wounds that we had to live through again. And days where we had to stop writing and working together because it was too triggering for either of us or both of us. But that was part of the healing process too, though. That was part of what made this book the book, because it forced us to lean into those things and talk about them. And I had days personally where I know what chapter, what topic we'd be working on, and going into it in the back of my mind, I'm like, shit. I know this stuff is going to come up, and I probably should have been more proactive on maybe addressing some of it and acknowledging the triggers around it, probably going into it.
I feel like we did the best we could.
Yeah.
If I could have done anything a little better, I think it would have been to not, we learned not to actually work in the same room because we had more arguments about how loud I type as a person. So
that is a huge pet peeve of mine, though.
I type really loud, and Andrew hates it.
Dude, it's like, just can you do less?
Andrew goes like this, like his fingers barely move. I'm like,
oh my god.
Yeah, I guess I'm an aggressive texter. He's like, or typer. He's like, are you mad at your computer right now? I was like, no, I really want to get this thought out. And and I didn't like the way that he chewed his lunch. It was very loud, and so we, that was the fun part of it too, was just kind of figuring out each other's work schedule and how we deal with work, and it's fun.
So a couple things came to mind as I've been working through this book. Is one of the defining books of Shawn and I's marriage is The Meaning of Marriage by Tim Keller, and he talks about how your spouse is in such a unique position where their compliments and their criticisms cut or reward you way more deeply than someone on social media who doesn't know you, right? Because if Shawn says to me, hey, Andrew, you're not a very good listener, she's around me 24/7 and I know that. And so it's it's like it's a tough thing to hear because I know that she is more aware of that part of me than anybody else. You guys talk about how a similar concept, the same concept, how fighting is kind of a derivative of like deeper knowing or deep understanding of your spouse. And like, it's a necessary part of growing together. Does that make it easy knowing that, or how have you guys been able to work through still the frustrations of it?
Yeah. I mean, as you said, Andrew, like, you know, typically you should know your spouse or your partner better than anybody else does. And so when you know so much about each other, it almost causes, again, if I can speak on my personal experience, but it almost causes some more frustrations or maybe instigate some more fights, because there's certain things Jana might say something and I know her so well. And I'm like, I know that was passive. And even if I do my work and I say, hey, you know, I'm reading a little energy from you. Was what you said passive? And she's like, no, it wasn't. I have a hard time accepting her truth that it wasn't, right. Because I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I know you so well. I know typically when you say X, it means Y, and you are passive and you have some feelings, but I have to make the choice to trust her truth and that she said it wasn't. And so to your point, it's like because we know each other so well, fights are instigated because we assume that there's more to it than maybe there really is. And maybe Jana is just saying, no, there's nothing behind it. Like, no big deal. But it's hard because we know each other so well.
I feel like that's what Andrew and I have been doing a lot of lately. And we've talked about it, but the assuming part, because you get to a point in your relationship, like you said, where you're like, I know you, I know when something's wrong. But you have to sometimes realize that I know something is wrong with Andrew before he does. And it's like the next day will come around or a week later and he's like, yeah, this was actually bothering me. I'm like, I know, because you were answering and you had like the tone or whatever. But we always like, you assume things about each other and 99% of the time start an argument because I just knew there was something, or I probably caused something.
Jana has, her timing is impeccable, because I'll start to come around on something in my head. I'll be like, you know, I'm starting to feel, and as soon as I'm starting to identify something that's going on with me, Jana will ask me, are you okay? Is anything wrong? And I'm like, how does she know? And I'm almost to the point where I'm ready to share, but I also want to do it on my own time. So I'll be like, no, I'm good. And I'll either come out with it later or I'll just push it back down, which isn't good. But it's like, to your point, Shawn, she knows.
Yeah.
And I just need to give into that. And just be
and
like,
then us girls get pissed because we're like, I know something is wrong.
That's the thing. Like, you guys don't give us enough credit. Like, we remember everything. We know what we said. We know how y'all act. We know when you answer differently. Like, it's just a woman thing. Like, we just know. We're that good. Like, God gave us so many amazing features, and that was one of them.
And that's why I think we should have a woman president.
Yes.
Give us a good candidate, please.
They would feel what's happening before it even happens.
Right.
They'd be like, yes. Okay, something that we haven't talked about before, like even as friends, and I'm really curious. It's something that stayed with me since I was on your guys' podcast back in LA.
Wow.
So, when it comes to your relationship, Mike, former NFL, Jana, singer, actress, and huge past that you have been very open with your ex-boyfriend. Ex-husband. The abusive. The abusive one.
Which one?
Yes. Well, so you talk a lot about identity.
Yeah.
And I'm curious because Mike and I talked about this on your podcast the first time.
Mike and Ike?
Mike and Ike. He loves Mike and Ike's, by the way. It's one of his favorites.
I freaking love Mike and Ike's. Anyway, sorry.
We talked about the obsessive identity that comes with elite athletics. And we talked about how it's so easy to feel lost as a human being when you retire from athletics because every thought, feeling, and emotion you had in your entire life was dedicated to football or for me, gymnastics. Mm-hmm. But on the other side, Jana, I think the same thing goes with your profession, with acting, with singing, and with your ex-boyfriend. I'm interested how has the identity of like trying to transition out of football, trying to move past your ex-boyfriend and the identity that he gave you, how has that either stuck with you or helped you grow closer as a couple? Is it something still lingering that you work through? Because I know with Andrew and I, we talk through it all the time. An issue will come up and I'll be like, you know, this is baggage from gymnastics. And I still act this way. I still feel insecure. I still feel whatever. I'm interested and intrigued if that's affected you guys.
Good question. I think, so I did a lot of work around my ex who was abusive. I mean, gosh, I was 21 when we broke up. So, I mean, I'm 36. So I've done, now I feel like my 20s were when I abused and I blamed a lot of my relationships on him, like, and how I was. Like I played the victim and I was got in bad relationships. And so and then it was 30 when I did the work in the 20s, but in the 30s was really when I was like, okay, I have to like shed that. And I did a lot of EMDR work and I did just a ton of work on myself. So when Mike and I have conflict now, there are times though that, and we can all be this way at times, but there are times when Mike can be more verbally aggressive and can gaslight. And I will then get triggered because of the gaslight and the manipulation that I felt from that relationship. Now, does it drive how I then react? No, because it's more so like the trauma that this relationship has actually put more. It's so hard. Like I feel like almost like this trauma is even heavier than, because our relationship was so. It wasn't as long as this. It wasn't as, I mean, yes, he abused me. It was awful and terrible, but this is the one I'm living in now. And I feel like I've kind of buried that last one, but there are emotions that do come up when I feel like I'm being gaslit or I feel like I'm being manipulated. Or trapped. Yeah. I'm very like, that's my thing now too. Like because he was on top of me, basically trying to kill me. When I feel suffocated, when I feel like I'm pinned up against a wall, I will have a panic attack and I will fight for myself. Like I will fight him. I will fight like to stick up for myself. So yeah, that's definitely something that has come up in this relationship.
Yeah. That goes along with kind of what we talk about in the book with claiming your baggage and how, your significant other and partner is responsible to an extent for helping you carry some of this baggage. And that's been something where over the course of our relationship, I've been able to be more mature about and holding that space for Jana because of her past. And I remember when Jana first told me when we were when we were together and close and I moved down here to Nashville, she was telling me more about that story and that, he was charged for attempted murder. And that seemed so severe. And I was, in my mind, I was kind of questioning it. Not questioning Jana, but just like,
I can't believe you doubted. Like you didn't believe me.
It's not every day you hear, yeah, my ex tried to murder me. So, so I hear that. And then we were cleaning out the house that Jana was renting when I first moved down here before we moved into our first house together. And I remember finding like court documents and it's saying like, Mike so-and-so charged with murder against, defendant Jana Kramer or whatever. And it was just like, from even at that moment, my responsibility as her boyfriend even to hold some of that baggage for her and understand that she's going to have these traumatic triggers, grew immensely. And it has continued to over time. And even now, I'm able to depersonalize some things because I know some stuff goes even deeper than what I've done. That stuff that's been there for a very long time. And then in terms of my transition, like you said, Shawn, we've talked a lot about this, and it's what sucks about it. And the biggest thing I wish I could do different is it's been incredibly unfair how much I took it out on Jana because I wasn't emotionally mature enough to handle that. And I didn't know where to go for help with it. And so I ran to the things that I would run to with my emotions my entire life, which was, sex or acting out in that way. And I would blame Jana. I would literally make her feel bad for working her ass off. I would make her feel bad for having to travel on the road and do shows and concerts and, doing all that she had to do. And I would just throw it in her face. Oh, it's always on Jana's timeline. We got to do what Jana wants to do. Because my identity was gone. I went from being my own business, my own entity, to someone else's husband. At no fault of Jana's. By the blessing of Jana for loving me and saying yes to her when I asked her to marry me. So I have, disappointing memories about my whole transition. I mean, every athlete, no one handles it great, right? It's tough and it's something that lingers with you. But that's one thing I wish I could go back and do differently, because Jana tried so hard to be supportive. She was extremely supportive. And I took that away from her by blaming her.
All right. Let me interrupt real quick and tell you about a change that I've made recently that has made such a positive impact on how I feel and my energy levels and my health. And that's including Liquid IV into my morning routine. I have one packet of it and I love it. It's got so much good hydration, vitamins, and minerals in it. And they say you have one packet of Liquid IV with a cup of water, and it provides as much hydration as 2 to 3 bottles of water.
Plus, it actually has 5 essential vitamins, which is C, B3, B5, B6, and B12. That's actually more vitamin C than an orange, and as much potassium as a banana. It's non-GMO, gluten-free, soy-free, dairy-free, and vegan. It's an incredible product, and it's something that truly we've noticed a difference in taking in our body, our energy, and our hydration.
Shawn was actually noticing on my hats that I've been wearing, I have a little salt line. And in the NFL, when I was playing there, we actually did sweat testing where they measure how much salt you would sweat out, or sodium and potassium you'd sweat out. And my levels were super high for what I was releasing. And so as a result, I needed to take in a bunch of sodium, potassium. And that's actually how I stumbled across Liquid IV.
Believe it or not, dehydration actually occurs in 3 out of 4 people. Things like headaches, dizziness, brain fog, even muscle fatigue can be symptoms of dehydration. And we don't have any time for that.
That's right. And I love Liquid IV too, because it's healthier than some of those sugary sports drinks that you and I have both tried.
And it tastes delicious. My favorite is the lemon lime.
That's right. They have strawberry cake flavor.
Yes.
It's delicious. They have a whole bunch of flavors. And on top of that, if that's not enough, the health, the flavor, they also donate Liquid IV for every purchase that's made. They donate, and they've donated over 5 million globally. It's wild.
Wow.
That's right.
So Liquid IV is available nationwide at Target, Whole Foods, and Costco.
Or you can get 25% off when you go to liquidiv.com and use code EastFam at checkout.
That's 25% off anything you order when you use promo code EastFam at liquidiv.com.
Get better hydration today at liquidiv.com, promo code EastFam. All right, I had my spiel. Your turn.
Okay, so I've talked about Glossier before for their skincare products and for that popular glowy, dewy skin look. But Glossier also makes makeup products, body care products, and fragrance. Glossier believes in the power of self-expression and personal choice in beauty and beyond. So they are always in conversation with their community about the best ingredients, best techniques, and dream products. The newest product that I just tried is their Boy Brow Gel. Andrew is always commenting on my brows. All of you guys are always commenting on my brows. I have been using this brow gel for a while, and it's awesome. It doesn't get too crusty. It's not too much like tint to it. It works beautifully.
Crusty eyebrows doesn't sound that fun.
No, but if you use a lot of different brow gels, they get like really cakey and they don't go on smooth, and they just like are a mess. This one is not. It's perfect for your brows. It is truly the best brow product. It's evidently the best-selling grooming pomade for instantly fluffy and full brows.
Wow.
They have different tint colors. They have blonde, brown, black, auburn, which is new, and clear, which doesn't leave a trace. I use the blonde. It works amazingly. It also has ingredients that condition and moisturize your brows over time. And with the brushable, creamy formula, it visibly thickens and shapes your brows perfectly into place. Boy Brow is a bestseller. There's been over 3 million sold.
Whoa.
I mean, for a reason. It's truly the best. So if you guys want to get Boy Brow, you can visit glossier.com/podcast/EastFam. All new customers will get 10% off their first order on glossier.com/podcast/EastFam. Certain exclusions do apply. That's Glossier, GLOSSIER.com/podcast/EastFam.
Let's get back to it. Mike, we're in such similar positions where, I mean, if you take our careers independently, they're pretty good careers, right?
They're incredible.
And I always thought that, like, wow, I'm going to be the hot shot. But we have found ourselves in a supporting role for the large part. And it is a continually humbling experience where it's like, all right, we have two dreams going parallel, like on a parallel timeline, and we can only choose one. It probably makes more sense to go with Shawn's,
Mm-hmm.
And I would not change it for the world, because I know that I would probably be so prideful and arrogant, and this has made me a better man, but it is hard. So I respect how you've done it. I do have a question though. In a parallel universe, you said 6 weeks into your relationship is when kind of you guys had a big argument where some things were revealed. I won't share that. It's in the book. If you guys want to learn more listening, you'll have to buy the book. But you had you had your kind of first large argument where Jana found some things out about you. Would you rather, if you could, her not have found out about that? Or would you still choose to play things out like they have?
Wow. Man, what a question. That first initial one, knowing what I know now about myself, being an addict, and now in recovery, I can't say that if she never would have found out about that first incident, 6 weeks into our relationship, that I would have stopped. I mean, that would go against my belief of being an addict, or knowing that I am one. But to alleviate the heartache that she felt, that both of us felt, because we were so connected so early. Would I want to live with that lie? No. But would I want to alleviate the pain when she thought this was something different? Yes. So, man, that's a tough question.
But it would have made, like, if I didn't know, I feel like just like hearing that, when your affairs came out when we were married, it would, at least I understood the first time, because I never really understood it.
Yeah,
so it more made sense.
For sure.
Knowing that, like, it was, if it, like, you had never cheated on me and then it just happened in the marriage, I'd been like, well, what happened? Like, I don't understand. Like,
Right.
So it almost like makes sense of the addiction.
No, definitely. It shows the pattern a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Janice, 6 weeks into a relationship, why stick around?
Honestly, a few reasons. Number one, I've cheated before in past relationships, and there's this one person that hasn't forgiven me, and it's always kind of sat with me, and I would have loved forgiveness. And B, I was like, all right, I'm 30. Like, I'm sick of dating.
Clock's ticking a little bit.
Clock's ticking a little bit. Yeah. I didn't have another prospect.
Jeez. Stop. Oh.
So she settled for your boy.
No, I'm being silly, but at the same time, I'm not gonna lie. Like those were things that did cross my mind. Like, okay, he's willing to change. Maybe this is his wake up call, and this could happen if I do dump him, and any other guy can cheat on me again. But he's now willing to see the mistakes and So it's like, that is definitely something that
That's actually amazing. That's like a huge point. Because I have friends now who are 30s and they're dating and they're frustrated because they can't find like the girl of their dreams, right? And in my mind, now being married for 4 years and Shawn and I know each other well enough to know each other's mistakes, it's like whatever spectrum of ailments you have, whether it's loud typing or cheating, like there's so many things that are wrong with people, right? And you're not going to find someone who doesn't have something wrong with them. So it's cool. And you stated in the book, like it's a choice. You just make the choice. And that's the powerful thing about it.
Well, and I said this to you guys the first time you were on our podcast, and I mean it. It's something I respect so much about you and your relationship is you aren't afraid to show the world that it's okay to fight for a relationship. I feel like the entire world is filled with, especially right now, if it's not easy, people believe that, oh, it's just not supposed to be, like this just isn't supposed to be. And they leave. When you've learned within a relationship that it's hard. Like a relationship is hard and it's hard work and people make mistakes on whatever spectrum that is. And we always will. We're human beings. And if you don't learn early to fight for that, you'll never find someone. You will never find a relationship that you're happy with.
Yeah, and it'll go on to what we always say. It's, different cast, same story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It'll be different person you're dating. It'll be the same story. Your same baggage, there's their baggage. It's just, there's going to be issues. There's no perfect relationship.
I like that analogy a lot. Don't know if it's appropriate. Feel like it's worth saying. I feel like we are somewhat at a pivotal moment in our friendship because the relationships, you got to fight for all of them.
Yes.
Right? And I felt like first of all, I'm thankful you guys joined us on the show, but there was some drama that doesn't need to be said that I feel like was worked out recently. And it was like really the first tangible example that we've had in a while of, hey, we could so easily, let this go wash under the bridge and be cordial with Jana and Mike and be fine. But we're going to go down to your book launch party and we're going to give you hugs and apologize in person and do what we can to fight. So I hope that, we are willing to fight for our friendship and we love you guys. And so it was honestly like such a wild example of the title of this book, The Good Fight. I was like, wow, this is real.
Well, we love you guys. And that's, the thing with the book is like, we want people to fight for all types of relationships, and so if you're not married, like there's so many lessons and tools that you can learn there, how to be a better friend, how to be a better, sister and, brother, like it's just, and, I feel like because we're older and we have, other friends and it's like, there's no point in just having those, to me, any just surface like relationships, especially when you value them so much. So it's just to be able to communicate and express what your feelings are. And then, hey, what have we done wrong? Like, what can we do better at? And, I pretty much blew your surprise birthday from being, trying to be funny, but yet feelings were hurt. And it's like, and I freaking blew y'all's thing. And then Shawn and I are both like, I'm crying. I'm like, I can't talk to you right now. Like, and it's just like, and then I'm like, maybe they just don't like us anymore, babe. Like, and then I was like so upset and I was in such deep like depression that day. I was like, I lost friends.
Well, I will say, I tried to do, we connected on such a deep level the first time we met and just talked like about everything so openly.
Yeah.
And I am not a confrontational person. I try to shy away from confrontation. I try to be like, oh, it's all good. I'm sorry. Bye. I probably won't ever talk to you again because I ruined it and I made a mistake. I'm just going to go hide under a rug. And I remember I made mistakes. I tried to overexert myself and overextend myself. I made mistakes. And I had the thought texting you because I was trying to call you and I was trying to do that because I could keep myself better accountable. But I was texting Jana and I was like, I could so easily just say things in a sly way or kind of give a little lie here to just make my situation seem better and to like earn your forgiveness faster. And I was like, no, I need to own my crap and tell her what happened and ask for her forgiveness and see if I deserve that friendship anymore. And it ruined my day too. I was like, oh my God. I was like, Andrew, I just lost our friends. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
So are we all good?
We're all good.
All good. We're all good.
Yeah,
but go ahead, Mike.
No, go ahead, Andrew.
Go ahead, Andrew, and then I'll go.
Well, one thing that's interesting,
By the way, Andrew knew nothing of this. He didn't know about any of it. He's like, what's going on with Mike and Jana? And I was like, I'm so sorry.
Well, here's the deal. I know that Shawn tends to act more when she's emotional than I do. And so I figured there was hurt words shared. So anyway, I do think, Jana, you just said something that's interesting. And Shawn falls prey to a similar mindset of, oh, I made a mistake. They don't like us anymore. So we're just going to like give them space. Where I feel like there's so many missed opportunities for, hey, maybe actually Jana and Mike still want to be friends. We just have to be the one reaching out and apologizing or reaching out and asking to hang out. You know what I'm saying? Like, as opposed to assuming that they don't want to have anything to do with us, asking, right? I don't know. That was my thought.
Yeah, no, you're totally on. And I think that's where, women do so many more things better than men do. So many more. But I feel like just stereotypically an area where we may succeed at, Andrew, is this kind of confrontational issue that we don't have to say it's the end of the world and change our number and run away.
Did Jana talk about changing her number?
No.
Okay.
No,
Jana jokes about doing that in the past. But, for me, when Jana was like, expressing the situation to me, I was like, look, people make mistakes. It's one of those situations that sometimes you don't know how to manage until you're in it, and you just want to take the path of least resistance and just get through a situation when it may seem uncomfortable. But for me, it's like, we value y'all so much as people and as our dear friends that I'm like, that part of what we talk about too in the book is just having the grace of forgiveness. It's like, no friendship is going to be perfect. Someone's going to do something to piss the other off. That's what close friendships involve, because close friendships are like family. And everyone knows that you fight and bicker with your family. It's just the family that you choose. So, for me, I was just like, all right, it's a situation that happened. Like you said, Andrew, that's all that has to be done. And it's funny because Jana and a girlfriend of hers were talking about one of their friends, not talking crap, but just talking about scenario with one of their friends in a group chat. They're like, yeah, she didn't respond to what we said, but then she comes in and says something completely different. And, I'm sitting there, I'm like, why didn't y'all just call it out? Like, why didn't you say something?
Right.
Well, we shouldn't have to. I was like, in a guy chat, we'd be like, hey, dickhead, I said somebody just respond to that first. Don't change the subject. Right. But that's just how simple guys can be sometimes and how complicated women can be at times. But all in all, like, we love y'all. That ain't never going to change.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So but we do appreciate how y'all handled it. And Shawn,
it was my fault. I'm the one that ruined your party.
Nah,
that's true.
No,
because I had hurt feelings of not being invited.
Hey, what's chapter 1? Claim your baggage. So we definitely have some of that as well. Jana.
Can we please get together soon?
Yes. Anyway, I just feel like that was worth saying because it's hard to find friends who are capable of understanding each other at such the level that we are able to, just given the context and careers and whatever. So anyway, we're good. We love you. And yeah, I am thankful for you.
We are thankful for you too, and the TV that is sitting on your lap.
I think
yes. TV.
It looks massive.
It looks huge.
But I think your listeners and your viewers should pay attention to that, though, because this book deals with just relationships in general. It doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. It can be things that you deal with, like this, like confrontation with friends, like uncomfortable situations with friends that you need to deal with. So
Andrew and I have talked about that a lot, though, with friends. And and to anybody listening, I'm sure you can think back to like friendships where there are a lot of times with certain friends that you have where all of a sudden you start believing in separate things or doing separate things that you don't agree with. And everybody, for some reason, seems so afraid to talk about it that you're just like, I'm just going to let that friend go. Instead of digging up dirt and actually confronting someone and working through it. I think there's a value that you do for your, like, or something that you do within the relationship of your significant other that you fail to do with friends sometimes that I think is really important. That
it is so important. Yeah. And I think that's where, you know, when Shawn, when I texted you too, it's like, because of my personality, and you saw me the other day, if I hurt someone's feelings, I shell up, I take it so personal. I'm in a closet and I shut the door for weeks. And it's like, and that friendship goes away. And so that's why I was like, okay.
So when you said, I hurt your feelings, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to go hide in a closet.
I know. When that's what I was like, well, I'm just going to tell her because I love her. I'm going to express my feelings. Because if not, I'm just going to close the door and I'm never going to, like, we're never going to see them again.
I love that.
Which thank you for, because I needed, and I did not want to lose you guys as friends, and I deserve that. And I own my crap and my baggage. And
I own mine too. And I'm sorry and I love you.
I'm sorry and I love you too.
Aww,
Shawn,
guys.
Couples therapy, but friends therapy.
Friend therapy.
I don't know if you guys found this true, but there's a book I read, 30 Lessons on Living, where it talks about how anytime there's a conflict in a relationship that you want to mend it as soon as you can. Because it is so true what Shawn was saying, where, like, say Shawn and I get in an argument and I go and talk to my boys about, hey, you know what? She did this. And they'll be like, wow, I can't believe she did that. Like, you got to do this back. And then you start, it's like an echo chamber of, oh yeah, she's so wrong. And then you start believing that. And then it just widens the gap, right?
And then you bring up a topic or an issue in an argument a week later, a month later, a year later. And all of a sudden it's this huge monumental thing that could have been mended immediately.
Or you don't talk to each other. Like, Shawn didn't talk to Nastia for 8 years because they had some dumb qualm that ended up being like, oh yeah, we actually don't care. So it was like, wow, we should. I was the next
Nastia.
You were the next Nastia.
Oh my God!
I wouldn't have allowed that. I'd be like, Andrew, what the hell is going on? Our wives. Shawn showed up at your doorstep.
Oh, that's crazy! I didn't know that you and Nastia. What was it?
So it was a lot, and it wasn't just one thing, but it was basically we were best friends at the Olympics, and then competed against each other. And at 16, the entire world said it has to be her, or it has to be Shawn or Nastia. And we had bitterness from a competition that we didn't know how to separate from friendship. And we didn't know how to just be like, look, I wish I would have won. You know, it doesn't feel great to get silver all the time, but congratulations. And she, you know, it was just that. And we did it 8 years later, and we're like, I'm sorry.
8 years.
I love you. Yeah.
Anyway.
So,
all right, transitioning subjects. Last question I'm curious about. Jana, you're in the music business. You're in the acting business. It is called drama. I think theater is drama. I think they're parallel. Do you feel like that carries over into your personal life at all?
So I don't think so, but Mike does. So, like, when we have,
I promise I didn't plant this question for Andrew.
When we have an argument and I'm crying, he'll no joke say, Jana, you're not acting right now. This isn't in a movie. Okay, stop. And I'm like, these are my real feelings. And I get like, that really hurts me. Because I'm like, this is actually my real feeling. This is, I am a crier, and this is me expressing it. And to him, I'm acting out in a Next Lifetime movie. Like that's, and so, but I don't.
The capability of being able to tap into your emotions in a deeper way than like I could or Mike could, I think it was something I was thinking about.
Yeah. I mean, it is something where, you know, look, I use our stuff more in my acting, but I haven't used it.
You're welcome.
I really needed it. When I needed to cry in that movie, I was
when Jana wins an Oscar, you know why. My name better be on that thing.
Thank you, husband.
Yeah. But I mean, it is, but not, I don't think in our personal arguments, because I don't, Michael's the one who puts the teardrops in his eyes when he's like pretending to cry.
No.
I made a joke about that one time, and Jana thought I was being serious.
And you'll never live it down.
Never.
Okay.
Never live it down.
You guys are awesome. You're obviously our friends, so we could talk forever and ever. And I forget that you guys have a press day. 3 questions, rapid fire.
Yes.
Bring it.
Who wants to go first?
Me. I already have him behind my back.
So now you'll go back and forth. Biggest pet peeve with Mike.
Oh, with Mike. Oh, I thought I was gonna be like, when someone doesn't say thank you when you let them in when you're driving. Biggest pet peeve with Mike is his 3-hour lunches.
Wow,
Whoa.
I freaking love that.
Guys gotta eat, man.
For
Those
3
are long.
hours.
Easy, an hour.
I need a good
usually 2.
3 minutes.
No.
Okay,
3
Mike,
hours.
biggest pet peeve with Jana.
When Jana goes to check her phone, I'll be like, hey, what time is it? Or what do we have today? She'll pick up her phone. And even though she's going to go to her calendar, she goes to email first. Then she has some DMs on Instagram. then she has to text someone. She has a couple texts she has to send real quick. I'm like, I just want to know what the weather is outside. I need 2 seconds of your time. Just tell me that. Then you can check all the other notifications you have on your phone.
You have a phone. You can.
It drives me insane.
That's hilarious.
Jana, what do you love the most about Mike?
How amazing he is as a father. He's so great with the kids.
Wow.
And Mike, what do you love the most about Jana?
This may sound cliche, but I really do. Believe that I'm the best version of myself because of her, because of her ambition and what she instills in me. It just really motivates me to be better dad, better husband, better person. So I love her ability to influence in that way.
Oh. And then for both of you, what is the best piece of advice you have ever gotten or would give to anybody out there about a relationship?
Mine I got from my mom, and I haven't listened to it at times, but don't ever let anyone take your life.
Mine is something I heard in a meeting one time. This guy shared, he said,
What's the shit one?
if,
Sorry. Oh, did I just like see? I spoiled another surprise.
if you have one foot, if you have 1 foot in tomorrow and 1 foot in yesterday, you're in perfect position to shit on today.
Wow.
I like that a lot too.
Wow.
Yeah. So be in the present.
Stay present.
Wait, Jana, yours was don't let anyone take your life or lie?
Light.
Light. Gotcha.
Life.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
Don't let
Good
anybody
advice.
kill you.
That's
No.
Oh, okay.
that's the best advice I've
Good
ever
advice, Mom.
Guys, no, don't ever let anyone take your light, because
I
your
got
light is what attracts you to people, and your energy and your guys.
I've been
I'm
trying to
not
figure.
gonna lie, I heard life too, and I was like, that's very
No, but
deep
then-
and
yeah.
dark, but I get it.
In
I
general.
like it.
No, light.
Light is great.
I've been trying to figure out if you've been sipping on a Corona or a Topo Chico this whole time.
Guys. I
mean,
made
just
the
have
OG.
it.
It's a Topo Chico, but I made the OG because they don't have it
How?
at True Food anymore. So you take a
No.
Topo Chico, you take a lemon honey ginger shot from Whole Foods, you pour it in there, and then you squeeze a half a lime. It's almost exactly the same.
Wow.
Okay, we're doing
Like
You've been
that.
holding out on us. This is the repercussions of us being in a
Okay,
friend
guys,
fight.
you are amazing. Congratulations on the launch of your book, The Good Fight. You guys can find the link in the description.
Yes. Also, they are having an event on October 5th, the Unwind virtual event celebrating the book release. So definitely check this book out. It is worth a read. And we'll know you love it. We'll know you love Jana and Mike. Jana and Mike, we love you. Thanks for giving us the time. We'll see you later.
Love you.
Love you
Love
guys
you.
so much.
Bye.